Thank you, Johnny. He's not just a newsman. He's a guitar player. We're joined by gubernatorial candidate Scott Jensen and his running mate, Matt Birk.
And the crowd goes wild.
And I got to tell you, man, before we get into what I think's important, and what I think's important probably doesn't mean much to you guys, but it might. If I hear any more of this Holocaust stuff, I'll never talk to you again. That was just utter embarrassing BS. I don't stand for it. I can't take it. And I got news for you. Women don't intend to stay barefoot and pregnant.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Now,
very good.
Out of the way. The floor's open now.
Right.
The floor's open. He got us everything that he wanted to say out of the way.
You feel better, Joe?
We need desperate fiduciary responsibility. Did you read this piece today? The Play story in the Star Tribune where they got $130 million of federal money and they don't know where it went. It was supposed to aid the homeless. There's nobody running the show up there, Scott.
Joe, this shouldn't surprise us. They did the same thing with daycare. They did the same thing with their feeding the
We got a
hungry.
food fraud scam.
We've got waste, fraud, and abuse at every level.
I'm surprised this is even news anymore.
You've got crime to deal with. You've got financial fraud to deal with. We need adulthood.
How about schools?
Schools. Now I'll come to your defense. On the school ad, you say the schools are a bottomless pit. You are absolutely correct. And then the Walls campaign takes that and turns it around. They go to their always available constituency, which is Minnesota education, and they say, no, Walls is the guy for us. No, you have the right idea. Education, money spent on education has never proven to equal academic achievement, ever, ever. You can't find one study that proves additional money improves academic achievement. And yet do you realize? Of course you realize it. You're running for governor. That's half the state's budget is education. Half.
Just about, yeah.
You know, I went over, Joe, to the DFL booth, and they've got this thing where you get to put a P in it, and then they sort of watch the columns grow. The issue that absolutely captivated the entire DFL P's in the booth, or whatever it was abortion. They did not once mention on any of their issues, and they have 12 issues, they didn't mention safety, they didn't mention crime, they didn't mention kids, they didn't mention inflation. Those are non-issues to them. All that matters is that one issue. You're spot on, Joe. You're hitting them right where we should be living as Minnesotans, and it's not happening for them.
It's not happening. It's not happening. And that's where you guys can make hay. I'm not sure you can make hay on the cultural nonsense, but you can make hay by being adults when it comes to money, education, and crime. The crime is terrible. It's horrible.
You seem kind of fired up, Joe.
I am. I want some adults
get
to
off
run
his
this
get off
state.
his lawn.
Yeah.
Do you guys see, when you go outstate, do you see more of an intensity in the Twin Cities, in the metro area versus, say, you're up in Brainerd or you're up in Roseau? Is it what's the vibe you get? Because I feel in the cities, it's like this. It's your claws on.
Well, obviously in Greater Minnesota, the energy out there is unbelievable. You know, and those people that live out in Greater Minnesota, you talk about, government overreach to have these same draconian lockdown rules in Minneapolis as you do in Roseau or, Granite Falls. Just absolutely ridiculous. I think that out there, obviously, we have a lot of supporters. But Scott and I, Scott's been here every single day at the fair. I've been here almost every day, standing in front of our booth. And I don't know, I always ask people where they're from. They're from all over. People are fired up. Everybody was affected. A lot of people were hurt. Were hurt by the government. They lost their jobs, they lost their business, their kids have been damaged. And Scott, the tagline of the campaign is Heal Minnesota.
Yes.
We really do, because a lot of people, everybody was affected, but a lot of people were deeply wounded these last few years. And that's what we're trying to do.
As the father of a first grade school teacher in the inner city kids have really been left behind. That
No doubt.
That COVID-19 protocol where they didn't all show up, they didn't all have iPads, and they just keep passing them, and they're on the road. If they can't read by the time they're in third grade,
it's over. It's pretty much over.
Yes,
you're right. This is a fact. If a student, third to fourth grade is that first key transitional point in a child's education career, and if they aren't proficient in basic reading and math skills, there's almost zero chance that they will ever get caught up.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
and I think what's happening, I think the parents realize that. I think for a while there's this attitude that you get a mulligan. Okay, well, they missed a year. Okay, we'll make them repeat that year. No, you're exactly right. If you look at developmental achievement in kids, you don't get a mulligan. You don't get to hit it over. So the kids are arguably going to be damaged going forward. It's going to be very difficult for them to catch up. But I think the other thing, Rookie, that we notice is that Greater Minnesota has, when I'm meeting with those folks, they're wondering, why aren't the people in the urban areas angrier at what happened? And if one thing has emerged during the state fair, I think it's happening. Mm-hmm. We're seeing people that live within 2-3 blocks of Lake Street, live within, ground level zero, and they're saying, we're scared and we're tired of being scared. We don't know if we can go out. We're tired of that. Our kids have been damaged, and we're tired that nobody's saying anything. And I think recently this faux pas on Tim Walz's part to tell people, your kids didn't miss that much school. What are you so worried about? 80% of kids miss less than 10 days of in-classroom instruction.
That can't be true.
Yeah, and then he comes out and says, well, it's context. Well, what does that mean? Why didn't you say that at the time? He is absolutely lying, and he got caught. And then he came in the same interview. He talked about crime. He said, we're one of the safest states in the nation. One study says top 3. One study says top 5. No, we're not. We're now a high crime state. Data shows that over and over again. He's not once showing us one piece of data. The guy is lying when he makes a stupid statement.
We've asked him on the show. Rook has been on him.
The press secretary
won't come on.
The press secretary did reply, possibly tomorrow, but we're running out of real estate here.
Yeah.
The invite was extended well before.
Do you ever get concerned that we're running out of time to make this state healthy?
I do. I think that the next 4 years, if we try to live through 4 more years of this, bar the door, Nelly, it's all over. Mm-hmm. The sustainability of what we're doing is,
and by healthy, I mean get back to some financial common sense for starters, and crime common sense.
Joe, the budget in Minnesota went up 75% in a little more than a decade. The average wage earners' wages went up 25%, but the government took a triple. That's not sustainable.
It's not.
If you look at the metrics and compare Minnesota to other comparable states, we spend way more money. You look at the average welfare recipient in Minnesota, it's over $30,000. You look at the surrounding states, none of them get to $20,000. You look at what Mississippi spends per kid, $9,000. We spend 150% of that at $13,500, and yet we're accused of not fully funding kids. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know what fully funded means. Does it mean we have to go from 13,500 to 50,000 and then we're finally there? And does that stay the benchmark there? Come on. Help me out. What does fully funded mean?
It doesn't mean anything because it will never end.
Amen.
And if it doesn't end, we have no chance. Because you're already taking half of a, 17, 18, $19 billion budget, and half that is education. Half.
We're getting ridiculed, Joe, because we've had the audacity to say, why can't we have a conversation about what would Minnesota look like if we didn't have a personal income tax?
Right.
Why can't we have that discussion? We've got a $12 billion overpayment. This is the time to have that conversation. If we can't get there, we can't get there. But by George, we'll never know unless we have folks like you having us on, going a little deeper, going into the weeds. How do we do this? But we've got to be bold and willing to have those conversations. In the same way, we're saying, let's be bold and have the student choice.
I'd settle for not taxing Social Security.
Well, do you want that to stand in line and wait for us to say that if you got your student loans forgiven because Joe Biden decided to put a unilateral edict out and you get $10,000 or $20,000 knocked out?
No.
And now we're being told as candidates that we're supposed to say, well, if the students do get that forgiven, for heaven's sakes, we're not going to in Minnesota have it taxed. Folks, 65 and older have been double taxed for a long, long time. Let's keep our priorities straight.
We can't do anything about the weather in Minnesota, but we are giving people plenty of reasons to leave or not to come here and have a career and have a family in Minnesota. And that when we talk about sustainability, we've got people migrating out of the state at record numbers, and it literally is not sustainable. There won't be anybody left.
You run an ad where you say you want lower gas prices, vote Jensen Birk. You have nothing to do with that.
Actually, the California car mandates, when Walz hooked us to that did jack up the price of gas. Because what it basically did was cause the refineries to have to go out and purchase some carbon credits.
Right.
They passed that cost on to the gas station owners. The gas station owners passed it on. So it does. It's probably about 20, 25 cents.
But doesn't that have to legislatively be addressed?
Well, the California car mandates basically was
the hell with California. Let's get rid of following California car mandates.
Yeah.
But it's a reality.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, right now they're saying by 2026, 35% of our cars have to be, if you will, electric vehicles. And in 2035, they're not even going to let you have your lawnmower.
And today, you can't plug in your electric
see
car
that?
in California.
After they ban the sale of gas-powered cars.
I can see why California discussion gets your blood pressure
Oh,
up,
it
Joe.
really does.
Yeah, I've got some pills in my bag.
No,
I
I'm
can help
fine,
you.
man.
I
I'm
Calm them down a little bit.
I'm good. I just want to hear more straight and narrow. I don't want to hear any B as in B, S as in S, and because we need saving.
Yeah.
And
let me ask this: what is the common response from you guys when you're asked why won't Walls debate you?
The common response from who? From
Just from the average person you're encountering, whether it's at the fair or in the walk of life. You know, what is the common response from you guys?
Typical person says, well, we've always had debates. That's what Minnesotans want. And then I usually fill in the blanks and I say, well, at this time in 2018, when Tim Walz was running, there were 4 debates already. He had debated at Game Fair. He had debated at the fair, at the State Fair. He had debated, I think, in front of the
Farm Fest.
Chamber of Commerce and then Farm Fest. So he had done 4 of them then. There was 26 debates in the 2010 governor election. There were 5 in 2014. There were 6 in 2018. In 2018, when Walz ran, he'd already had 4 debates by today. And he's saying now, oh, no, I'm not going to debate. This is pretty
so
darned
there's
up.
none on the schedule?
None on the schedule. And then he had the audacity to come out and say, well, I don't even know if Jensen wants to debate him. Are you serious, man? I mean, I don't know. He better get his medication levels checked.
We know why. I mean, everybody knows why Tim Walz won't debate Scott, why Peggy Flanagan won't debate me, because they can't run on their record. They can't. You can't defend anything that's happened under their watch.
And you know what should really get you steamed up, Joe? Is the fact
I'm
that
already
he's playing games with you and all Minnesotans. He's going to try to hold the debate off until October 20th, October 30th, when we've already had half of the early voting done. He knows full well what his strategy is. He wants to hide in the basement. In fact, I heard that if you go to his booth, in order to see him, you got to go behind it because they dug a basement, and that's where he hunkers down.
Hey, you got Joe to laugh.
Yeah,
you got Joe to smile.
Hey,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's not a bad line. What the hell? Well, boys,
yes,
I don't know what to tell you except the issues are crime and money.
Money.
But I do think, Joe, I think Rookie made a comment earlier that really needs to be attended to. The Republicans have been pretty clumsy at times in terms of talking to teachers. Teachers go into teaching to touch kids' lives. And I think too often teachers get lumped into the Democratic Education Union. That's not fair. I would never want you, Joe, to judge me based on what you think of the AMA. So I think we need to understand that there's a whole lot of teachers out there that recognize the brokenness of what we're going through. We need to deploy the dollars into the classroom where the teachers are. We've got a lot of teachers out there that spend their own money to buy tablets and pencils and help kids out. And we need to honor the work they do. And I don't think we've done a very good job.
That's the other thing. The money, this black hole of education, the $20 billion, not enough of it is just getting to the classroom. It's getting gobbled up by bureaucrats and administrators. And it has nothing to do with educating children.
Right.
Matt, do you think that Joe Souchere's expense account and the number of times he travels to these boondoggles, do you think is more or less than Denise Speck, who runs Ed Minnesota?
Do you travel, Joe? Do you travel outside of St. Paul? When was the last time you left St. Paul?
No.
He went to
never.
Minneapolis once to go check out Nicole.
I was in Minneapolis
Not recently.
in 1958.
No, you went to George Floyd Square.
That's right.
That's right.
Accidentally, but I drove through it. Yeah.
Okay, are we done with all this politics stuff?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question for you.
He's going to ask something about food.
No, I don't know what it's going to be. I asked this of Joe Mauer, and his answer was pretty neat.
Pretty neato.
Yeah, of all the money you made over the years playing football.
He's got 5 cents left.
Yep, he's got too many kids. That's why.
Yeah.
That's true.
What was your most satisfying purchase or use of money?
Well, that's easy. I was able to gift my parents money so they could retire. That's an easy one.
Damn it. That was Joe's. Joe said the most satisfying thing was going to my mom and dad and saying, "You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. I got you."
I think Mr. and Mrs. Mauer are living a little better than Mr. and Mrs. Birk now. I think Joe made a little bit more money, but Mr. and Mrs. Birk are just fine. You know?
I just think that's such a really neat quality, and I admired that in Joe, and I admire that in you with that. It's just because I remember you growing up.
Well, you're shaming me. But both my parents are gone, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Jeez.
You would have. You're the kind of guy that would have had you been
I don't
making
think
Birk
so.
money.
Yeah.
But I just think that's a tip of the cap. So,
boys,
nice job.
best of luck to you, and GLers will continue to stop and see you at the fair. Good
Appreciate
luck.
it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Dr. Scott Jensen.
Thank you.
Mr. Matt Birk.